security doesn't live on paper. An interactive crisis simulation. So see the real-time impact of the human element in crisis management and response. Gain a greater understanding of how decisions in a threat scenario have a business-wide impact. So to lead us through this session, we're going to have Erik Engberg, Sales Engineering Manager, Northern Europe for Immersive Labs. Erik, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you with us. The stage is yours.
All right, excellent. So, you've been sitting on your butts all day listening to various good talks, and you've been listening to panels, you've seen experts speak. Well, today we're going to change that a little bit for the final session of the day. You are going to be the experts. You are going to join me in this crisis simulation and help us navigate through a little bit of a tricky scenario. And it's actually, the scenario is this. Recent supply chain crisis hits companies everywhere, right? So not having enough fuel at the fuel station, not having enough food at the supermarket, not enough stocking on the shelves for Christmas. We had Ukraine happen just recently. So we actually live in a world full of supply chain dependency. So what happens when those dependencies become painfully apparent? So today we're going to do a small crisis simulation as a little bit of a taste to what we normally do. This crisis simulation is based on a real scenario that happened to the world's largest meat supplier, JBS in the US, but we've fictionalized it a little bit more. So we will play as the crisis management team for a fictional company called Prime Cuts Canada. So this could be any other meat supplier or actually anyone in the food supply business, more or less. So what are we really protecting here? So we are leading, or actually the lead, meat processing and distribution company. So we have these big trucks going left and right across the country, packing meat. Meat is also perishable, and it's a very important thing for the entire population. We all gotta eat, right? When or if we would fail to deliver, everyday people will actually suffer. So this has real world consequences. So prepare yourself, and we are going to begin. So let's start the exercise. All right, so if you pick up your phones, go to this, play Immersive Labs.online, put in that little code. It will be visible throughout the scenario, so there's no rush to actually do it now, but please enter, and we will see number of participants rising, hopefully, very soon. While you're doing that, I will continue a little bit with the exercise. So, we already went through this. Day 1, today, 12th of May. All is well, operations are running smoothly. You've been at the Nordic IT Security conference. We aren't currently aware of any particular issues going on, but we have seen cybersecurity incidents have been a lot more prevalent in the news lately. We actually hear about companies having very painful public incidents and hear the word ransomware a lot more. We have recently heard about a competitor of ours in another country actually have been hit by ransomware. But our company aren't really concerned yet. So let's hope that those incident response plans that you just started to prepare, right, everyone does that, before the exercise don't come into handy. So, as a warm-up question, because nothing bad has happened yet, what will be our priority in this kind of setting? And now, how this works is you're going to play along, and we have a couple of options. So the options are, and I'll go through them before we can vote. So, knowing ransomware is out there, and we think we are reasonably well protected, but we don't really know. So we have to do a choice here of priorities. Of course, you could do all of these, but the point of the exercise is really picking your priority. In this case, option number 1 would be, well, we're a little bit unsure if our company is safe, so why don't we go and ask our head of IT? They should know how well we are protected against current threats. So let's figure that out as a member of the crisis management team. That could make sense. Option number 2, ask a renowned services organization from the outside to actually help us assess where we are in the threat landscape, because we aren't really sure about that. So let's map that out together with them. Reach out to a trusted firm. They are the experts. They can help us. Option number 3, well, put a program into place. Exercise that plan you were just working on, and exercise your teams in relevant scenarios, maybe with a crisis simulator, such as this, and you actually realize time waits for nobody. Exercise is key. So just like Tiger Woods, you can't be Tiger Woods unless you do what he does, right? What does that mean? Don't watch him on YouTube. You're not going to be a pro golfer. Go out, swing on the pitch. Or option number 4, keep calm. Carry on operations as usual. Nothing has yet happened. So, well, cybersecurity incidents happen all of the time. We haven't been hit, so we must be doing something well. Now, how this works is that I'm going to open this for voting, and this is the warm-up round. So let's see what you guys vote. You should be able to vote on your phones right now. If you don't have a phone and you have a laptop, that works as well. So we can see some responses coming in. If we had a little bit more time, this would have been great to have 2 or 3 people on the panel. We could discuss a little bit, and so on. And I think you can also imagine what this could do to a room full of people, or in your crisis management team, actually, to exercise these kind of scenarios. All right, we got 17 responses in, 18. So can we get it to 20? And then we're going to check what you guys voted for. All right, there we go. I've closed the voting, and we can see that it's a little bit spread out. Oh, nobody wants to keep calm. Why not? What's wrong with you? I mean, nothing's happened, right? But we can clearly see here that, yeah, some people like the head of IT. That could be a good idea. Nothing wrong with that. Asking a third-party services firm, that's also fair, right? So these doesn't have to be black and white options, but we can have different priorities, so we can start a discussion. Now, I'm going to go with the option number 3, because it has the most votes, but as a presenter, I could choose something else if I wanted to. So let's see how the warm-up round goes. Well, actually, that's a great answer, but you guys are smart. You figured that one out, right? So, a couple of things happen now in the scenario. We can see here we have operational capacity, and this is for more of an immersion, right? So we can see that is unchanged. We can also see that our return to operations is unchanged. Our reputation goes up a little bit because it's a good option. So things will change based on the choices we make in the scenario. Let's move forward, shall we? All right. However, 13th of May, that's tomorrow, we have a busy afternoon. We're done with that Nordic IT Security affair. So we are actually sitting in negotiation with the union, because they are demanding an untenable pay rise for all of the employees they represent. Then we get rudely interrupted by an urgent phone call. So what I will actually do here is I will try and see if the sound for this one works.
Hi, me again. Sorry to bother you so late on a Friday afternoon, but we've been seeing some suspicious activity on the servers. It seems some staff are having trouble getting into the system, and the users that are in can't seem to access You obviously know how much this affects our processes here, so we need to get on top of this before it escalates.
Ouch. Something bad is happening. Surprise, surprise, right? So, this call actually escalates to an emergency response meeting. And we're getting a bit more information that was actually in the call here. So we do know that we have reports of critical system encryption, computers and servers that are linked to our corporate IT network, which is different from the operations network. So corporate IT network, that's the laptops, desktops, servers, and so on that, power our corporate headquarters and, where people work. Then we have the operations network that runs the supply logistics, etc. So the problem is clearly spreading. So far, we don't really know what's going on. Recent spate of ransomware in other places, as we already established, actually might make it prudent to assume the worst. If the suspected breach, and this is what we know because we're a crisis management team, right? If this breach should escalate further and start touching our operations network, we have a big problem because all of our fast-moving cold logistics chain is threatened. It could even be crippled. So if we don't shut down the systems, the incident could spread and cause more issues later. However, we also know that if we're shutting down things a little bit too fast, it will actually bring the national food supply to a standstill. So, what action do we want to take? So we are going to open the options. What options do we have? Option number 1. Let's shut down the corporate IT network. That's where we're seeing this activity. We can't really afford to halt the operations side before understanding the nature of the attack. By only shutting off the network where this actually transpires, we can continue to process the meat transactions. Given the large share, and given our large share of the market, we can probably do with some standstill here, right? But if it's a week-long delay, it will cause a meat shortage. Option number 2, shut down the operations network. You must halt operations. We can't risk allowing whatever's happening to the corporate IT network to spread into the operations network. Option number 3, isolate the operation. Shut down both networks. It's too risky to keep either of them online until the threat is investigated or contained. Option number 4, deploy containment procedures to affected computers only. Only the infrastructure displaying suspicious activity should be contained to maintain service continuity. So this is actually a wicked problem. This can give you a lot of headache. Because remember, we aren't sure what's going on, we know it's spreading, and it's spreading fast. Let's open the voting. Now, to also put a little bit of a pressure cooker, what we can do is being very nasty since we don't have a panel. And of course it doesn't work when I try to show the video. All right, let's try again. All right, we'll try in the next one. It's always like that when you demo, right? So 12 responses. Did we get some more players in? 13. Now, one of the things you might see on your phone is that we're also asking you your confidence level. Like, how confident are you in this answer? Now, why do we do that? Because, you are all anonymous right now, so we're not going to go back to you and say, hey, that was the wrong answer. But having a measurement of confidence level can be a very good tool to figure out where people are just guessing, or they're actually trained wrong because they're super confident in a weak answer. But remember, there's not really any wrong answer or 100% right answer. Everything's up for debate. All right, 21 responses. This should be fun. Let's see where we are. Well, option number 1, shut down the corporate IT network, seems to be in the lead. There's also roughly equal spread, maybe a little bit more on isolating the operation, shut down both networks. So let's see what happens when we shut down the IT network. Well, this is an okay answer in the confines of this scenario. So we can't really afford to halt the operations before we really understand it, right? Now you can see here, the scenario will give us some feedback based on the option. We can also see, because we're shutting things down, and this is a bad case scenario, you can see our operational capacity is going down. We can see that the time it will take for us to return to operation just goes up, and our reputation goes down a little bit. Also, in reality, if we're looking at the real scenario with JBS, their decision was to shut down both networks. That can be an interesting thought. All right. Well, we started these network shutdown procedures, but it transpires now, and the teams working on this, they figure out we're being attacked by an advanced persistent threat group called REvil. So they are a known Russian group, and actually just the other week, they pretty much awakened again, if you are following the news. So this is actually very interesting and interesting fact. So what are we seeing? Well, we're seeing a message on infected systems. Welcome to REvil. Your files are encrypted. Open, readme, and follow instructions. They have exfiltrated 75 gigs of company-sensitive data, including employee, supplier financial, and personal data. So this is modus operandi for these APT groups. What do? They penetrate the network. They grab everything they want they can see of value. Once they have everything, it's time to start making money, encrypt everything, and then do what we call triple extortion. So first, you demand a ransom to get operations back up and running. Then you demand a ransom for your data. Then the third part is actually going to your suppliers and customers and ransom them for even more money, not to release their data or do something bad with it. The ransom is set at $14 million in Bitcoin to be paid within 24 hours. Ouch. And REvil has started contacting several of our partners and stakeholders, just as we feared, including our largest customer, ouch, a large fast food chain. So 3 of these companies are now contacting us, threatening to publicly break the news unless the situation is resolved immediately. And to highlight this, let's...
Hello, it's Jamal from Nordic IT Security. We've heard what's been going on from our competition, but thought I'd inform you that we've also been contacted by the ransom group and unfortunately are also being extorted by them. What a mess. It's total panic stations over here. We'll update you with any more info as we have it and hope that you'll do the same.
Ooh, that's not a fun phone call to get, right? So, let's open the options. So what are our options right now? Well, maybe we should reconsider withholding that ransom demand. Time isn't on our side. Our suppliers and friends in the business are, getting after us, and paying the costly extortion demand is our fastest route to returning to operations. Or option number 2, engage the public communications early, because we're already threatened to get exposed. It's our responsibility to ensure the first source of this incident is us, not companies in our supply chain going out and telling other people that, hey, Prime Cuts Canada, they have been hacked. Option number 3, reassure contacted supply chain companies that service restoration is underway. It's really important that the third parties contacted by REvil are aware of our remediation efforts. Because right now, they're in the dark, they've just been contacted by the attackers. Option number 4, alert all affected supply chain members of the breach, remediation efforts and next steps. Contacting everybody, not just those immediately affected, may accelerate the urgency to respond, but will but will be the best way to proactively manage the situation. So now we actually have a pretty tricky set of options. What are you going to choose? Are you having fun so far? Is this interesting? Does anyone have any major thoughts on this option? Raise your hand. All right, one. Every single thing is super customizable. So you can change everything. We have a set of 24 scenarios, or actually more than that, which we can play like this, but you can change everything you want. You can build your own scenarios as well, or you can have custom built scenarios just like this. Point and click, fix. All right, we are getting the responses in. Do we get another couple? All right, I'm going to close the voting in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, 22 responses. It's pretty good. All right, nobody want to pay the ransom. What's going on with you guys? That's the fastest way to recover. Engage the public community early, 18%. And everybody really, you guys are in agreement. The best option here really is to, tell our friends in the business, alert everybody in our supply chain. All right, let's see what happens when we do that. That's a great answer. You guys have done this before, right? So, you do? Oh, yeah, here. All right. So, let's see what happens next. Well, of course, there's press interest. Now that we have alerted everybody, and the scenario is dynamic, and things change based on what we choose, right? So, the press interest, the need to proactively alert our supply chain network is made a priority, because that's the choice. And then we go out with joint comms, PR, and us, that's a crisis management team. So, currently, doing a full network restoration from backups, that will take us weeks, not days. As a critical part of the international agricultural and food supply ecosystem, the expectation for seamless business continuity planning will doubtlessly lead to serious public and regulatory scrutiny. Oh, somebody's going to have a real headache in our company, right? Public escalation of the incident and new emergency government intervention has attracted serious media attention, national news outlets, etc. And, as we can see here, BBC News, Canadian meat supplier supposedly hit by ransomware. And even, hackers start serious beef with prime cuts. So we have to deal with this onslaught right now. At this point, we haven't really given an official confirmation publicly of ransomware attack, and media outlets are really hounding us. Transparency about the seriousness of this incident may yield a negative public perception and exacerbate panic buying. However, if we refuse to keep the public informed, it could seriously damage our reputation in the long run. So how will we manage the media's demand for information? Well, we have a couple of options. Refer to the press for a holding statement. So we are currently having technical difficulties. Please stand by. We'll fix it for you, right? Option number 2, actively engage with information requests. So communicate the details of the ransomware, the entire incident, and crisis management efforts. So being very transparent. Option number 3, do not engage media. So if we acknowledge this, or the theory is, this would just lead to an uptick in panic buying. So people are buying more meat because they know about this problem, and then we'll have even worse supply chain logistics, and so on and so forth. Option number 4, release a reassuring statement encouraging consumers to avoid panic buying. So focus on the measures we're taking to restore the food supply, not the ransomware threat. Keep that out of people's minds. So And we could, of course, have a longer discussion right here about, okay, what options and what are the pros and cons of each option. But I'm opening the voting, and to give you a little bit of pressure, what we can also do is fire up the pressure cooker. You have 55 seconds to comply. How's the voting going? Everyone having fun? Any questions while we wait? Any last minute worries? What would you choose? Looks like everyone's done, so I will actually... We have 19 responses. I won't even let the countdown go, but that's another option, what you could play with. So let's have a look. Ooh, actively engage with information requests. That's popular. Nearly even with release a reassuring statement. But I'm going to go with the winner this time. So let's see what happens then. So we're actively engaging with information requests. This is another great answer. By the way, there can be more than one great answer. And in some injects, it could be that none of them are great answers. It varies a little bit. So during an incident of this magnitude, of course, which involves many external stakeholders, information will be eventually leaked. That's just basically a fact of life. Transparency, therefore, is the best course of action. And what we're seeing here, we're doing the right things, but still our operational capacity keeps going down. We're still in crisis mode. Our return to operations is still heading upwards, so it's up to 7.5 days, but it could be worse, remember that. And the reputation score is taking a hit because we're going out with it, but it might not take the same hit as the worst option, but it might also take a bit more hit than, keeping a lid on for now. All right, it's not too many of these left, don't worry. Supply and demand. So, we actively engage with these information requests. However, articles begin appearing, which with additional, very negative details about the situation, provided by insiders inside your organization. And they reveal way more than we actually intended. Ouch. The incident has escalated to national news, and images of long queues at supermarkets and meat retailers whip up public frenzy. And to have a bit of fun, and all right, a little bit of taste what that can be. So, the IT network restoration is going well, but disruption to the distribution chain caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, ouch, is preventing several cold storage transport companies from operating at full capacity. So, let alone increased emergency capacity due to lack of available personnel. People are homesick. We have regulatory obligations to comply with, set out in the ISO standard 22301, alongside with global food safety initiative standards, and they require us to restore critical functions within a predetermined time, following any extended disruption. The focus is now on the logistical operation of food supply restoration, which will need to be prioritized in a phased approach. So, we refer to our critical service recovery plan within the suite of business continuity policies, plans, and procedures. But it's 2 years out of date. Well, that update didn't come in time, with few details on customer priority. So we don't really have a plan for customer priority, so we have to figure it out. So, who are we going to prioritize? The largest customers? If we're focusing on the supermarkets, the wider distribution will be addressed more quickly. However, it's not the quickest course of action, and we'll be leaving other vulnerable customers without supplies, which could actually attract more press criticism. Option number 2, send meat to customers closest to the largest processing plants. This will improve public perception in the short term because we are actually being seen as taking action. We'll be leaving some of the more critical customers in the lurch, but yeah, maybe we should have serviced them, but it's a good short-term option. Option number 3, send supplies to suppliers with the vulnerable customers. So service companies supplying food to medical facilities, care homes, etc. Without food, these customers are in more danger. However, this is slow action and may really anger the larger customers. Or option number 4, send supplies to customers who have complained the most. They have stressed an urgent need for supplies, and they're the most likely to take action if you don't help them. I'm going to open the voting and see where we are. And after this, it's just one more. Oh. Computers, right? You all have the options. Any questions? I don't know what happened there. All right, I'll give you another few seconds, then I will close the voting. All right, send supplies to customers with vulnerable customers. All right, let's pick that one and see what happens. It's a good answer. It's actually sensible to use a critical service recovery plan, which provides guidance on prioritizing redistribution, etc. In an emergency. But as often happens when you are in a cyber crisis, the plan does not cover our unique situation. Despite this, essentials of the plan will be useful for guiding our decision-making processes regarding tactical and operational priorities, etc. Let's move on. Final inject before the scenario is over. So, we've chosen to send these products out to vulnerable groups. This is actually angering our largest customers who are left without supplies. A public statement is actually made by the president of the union, who represents more than 25,000 of our employees. He has demanded that all of our staff actually receive contractual pay even as we are shutting down plants. Taking advantage of the power of the union has, due to the ongoing incident, he has also demanded a raise after the incident. You have been putting off these pay discussions with the union actually for the past 12 months of the pandemic, to further compound our issues, a large transport union has come out in solidarity with this prime contractors union and will refuse to transport our products until their demands are met. So not only are we getting ransomed by our evil, we're getting ransomed by the union. How do we respond to this? And we actually have a little bit of a statement here, which is not loading because internet is very slow. So let's check the final option. Publicly commit to the union demands. It is what the workers deserve. Without them, we don't have a transport, right? Option number 2, we'll monitor the state that we'll monitor the situation, make a decision when we have more details. Option number 3, offer full pay and review once review the races once situation has calmed down. So not right now, we're actually in the middle of a ransomware crisis. So give them some of them what they want, but leave yourself room for negotiation. Option number 4, stand firm against their demands, but offer to revisit later. So not right now, because we are actually on the brink of financial ruin, but we can actually, and we are not able to fulfill the financial demands. If we make that case, hopefully they will agree to work if they want to keep their jobs. I will just open this, and we have the final inject. So I'll give you guys 10 seconds to finish this one up. All right. Ooh, we're getting more responses this time. 15. All right. Let's see what we have. So, okay, I think we're in Sweden. This is, here we pay our workers better than the Americans do. I like that. So, we offer full pay, and we're going to review this race. All right, so what happens then? I like that. I want to get paid. And internet here is still struggling. There we go. This is actually a great answer in this scenario, so we are union positive. But this is really highlights a wicked problem that can come out, you know, from left, from right, and so on. This is the right thing to do, especially when we're looking at public opinion. So we're going to have like a reputation score that's not as damaged as maybe the other side, and we see reputation is actually upticking right now. It could be wise to consider if this is really a realistic option, though, because we are really in the shits, so to speak. Congratulations, we have now completed the Nordic IT Security food supply chain crisis, a mini scenario that we have, you know, to demonstrate capabilities a little bit. If you want to see and hear anything more about, you know, either the scenario or how we kind of design and build these scenarios in various ways, this is pretty much a non-technical scenario, but it's more to kind of highlight the types of, you know, really difficult decision making that you have to do as part of a crisis management team, dependent on cyber crisis. Actually, you picked a good path similar to what JBS did when this happened to them for real. I think the biggest difference was that they shut down both networks, you just shut down one. And I don't think they paid as much, or they weren't as willing to pay the union as you guys were. Now, another thing, this scenario is actually part of a bigger scenario, so you can play it a fair amount longer. It's available in our platform. What we can do after this, we can actually go back in time and look at our results. As we can see here, we have a summary. We scored 88%, that's really good. Normally scoring here is about 70%, but we picked a lot of the great answers. We answered 6 injects. We had decent engagement, and we can actually see here that operational capacity. As we can see, our final result, 48%. The maximum possible for the entire scenario is not that much higher. You can see the little bit thicker line here. That was the maximum possible. The minimum possible in the scenario is this dotted line beneath here. And if we're looking at return to operations, we were fairly close, because we want this to be low, we were fairly close to the best outcome. So that's also good. And if we're looking at the reputation, we are near the maximum possible reputation, thanks to us paying the union workers. All right. Any questions before we wrap this one? Did you guys enjoy? All right. Open floor? Nobody? All right. I'm going to thank you for your participation and go and have a lovely evening. I hope you're not too tired after today. Thank you.